I'll show you. This is a picture of a non-farm employment seasonally adjusted in your area from right before COVID. This is January of 2019, right here. Here's COVID. And then here is the two awful storms, plus Winter Storm Uri, plus a flood. You know, I kept thinking, next time I come over, there'll be frogs every place. Maybe the water will turn to blood. I don't know what's going to happen next. And so all of those events, combination of those events, cost you $27,000. That is a major hit to you folks. And unfortunately, the federal monies was not coming to you just real quickly. Now, when I was with you last year, I had you, matter of fact, right now you're about 45% recovered. Okay, that's not good. Okay, but as Dan pointed out, one of the things that happened when I was with you last year, it looked like your recovery was much better than this, given the data. Here's what happens. The Bureau of Labor Statistics collects the data on employment by month, okay, all during the year 2022. Then in March of 2023, they go back and revise all those numbers. When they revise your numbers, 6,000 jobs went away overnight. Just like that, with a stroke of a pen. And as it turns out, again, I'm kind of get past this. I've already talked about this. But there was this remarkable revision of a minus 6,000 jobs. And unfortunately, sometimes you see these revisions. First of all, you almost never see revisions that big. There was actually two revisions. One took place in Baton Rouge, one took place here. The Baton Rouge one was up 12,000 jobs. It was like a year and a half of growth. Just overnight, they got a year and a half of growth. Now, unfortunately, in your case, sometimes we look at these revisions and say, well, this is not fair, this is not right, this doesn't fit. Well, unfortunately, if you look at your school enrollments, your K-12 school enrollments, they kind of fit. And Daryl and I talked about this before. He had helped to get some of these data, but it kind of fits with this revision downward. And so that's the whole bummer part of the evening right there. But the recovery from this hole is one of the significant reasons for our forecast estimates. I think you have it is unnatural, it is weird, it is odd, and unlikely to stay the way it is. That's just not the way economies work. Economies take a hit and they come back up. You took a hit during Rita, you went down one side of the V, you come up the other side of the V. That's normal. And I think that's what's going to be ultimately end up being normal for you. You're going to come back just like economies do, because as you look around, your base, if I looked at at the Lake Charles economy and said, oh man, look at Chenal, look at the manufacturing sector, look at the chemical sector, look at the refining sector. Oh, they're way down. They're not down. Oh, your manufacturing jobs are all totally back. You got that solid underbelly there that's doing great. The airport doing great. And so the problem is you've got some things to work out on housing and insurance and that sort of thing. You'll get that worked out. You got some things that need to be worked out on money coming in from the feds to help you out. That's going to get worked out. It is abnormal to have what you saw just a while ago, so you should not be in that for a long time. Now, I'm going to show you some very optimistic forecasts for your area. These optimistic forecasts are going to require at least 2 to 3, maybe 4 LNG projects to pull the trigger and say we're going to do it. Okay? If none of them pull the trigger, then my forecast will be way too optimistic. But in the report, I kind of list all the LNG projects that have been announced, and I also rank them, okay, according to which ones I think will pull it. And I think there's at least 3 out there that are very high probabilities to pull the trigger. I don't think there's a whole lot of question about them. And a 4th one, maybe a 5th one, very, very close as it turns out. And so here are the projects here. You have a relatively small project underway here. You don't have a big list on this side. But over here, you have the biggest list of any metropolitan area of the state. $62 billion worth of projects. And as you can see, virtually all of them, with the exception of Lake Charles methanol, are LNG exports. And so again, how long have we been talking about this? 20 years? Okay. But they still they renew their lease at the port. The methanol market, again, read the report. The methanol market is a really hot market right now. And the primary reason for that is something that happened about 5 years ago when the International Maritime Organization made a ruling. This is part of the UN, said from now on, any ocean-going ships, if they come into certain ports in the world, okay, they have to be using fuel that's 0.5% sulfur content. They have been using 5% sulfur content. They have been using bunker fuel, which is the dirtiest stuff on the planet. And now they have to find a cleaner fuel, and one of them is methanol. So you read the report, you're going to find there's a major methanol plant going up in Alexandria. Really? Yeah, in Alexandria and in Shreveport, the Port of Caddo Bossier. All are being worked by ocean-going shipping companies. Okay, and so there's every reason to be able to be optimistic about Lake Charles methanol going forward. By the way, the other thing you're going to notice about these projects is you'll see new adjectives being used that have not been used before. And these are the adjectives clean and blue. And clean and blue refer basically to two things. If you want to have your ammonia plant be considered a blue clean, a blue ammonia plant, that has a meaning. The first thing it means is any CO2, any carbon that you emit is going to be captured, sent by a pipeline, and then sequestered in the ground. Carbon captured and sequestered. Okay? The second thing is if you want to be blue, that'll help you be clean. If you want to be blue, then the inputs you use for your electricity had better be renewable fuels. It better be solar or wind, probably not here, but wind, or maybe stuff made out of wood products or something like that. And so that's why you're going to see a lot of announcements of solar projects across the state, because all these companies are trying to get this designation, okay? And so, by the way, on this thing right here, you see this word primacy here? One of the big issues is if you're going to put this carbon capture and run it in a pipeline to another place, you have to get permits. And right now, there's a big battle in Louisiana between Louisiana and the feds over who's going to determine who gets the permits. There are two states, Wyoming and I think either North or South Dakota, North Dakota, who have what's called primacy. They get to issue the permits. Right now in Louisiana, we're fighting with the feds to say we sure as heck don't want the Biden administration, EPA, issuing permits. Okay, we do not want that. We want primacy here. So that's a big battle that's going on right now. And by the way, one of the nice things about this that makes your area particularly good is that these pipelines, there's not a whole lot of pipelines in the United States that carry CO2. You have to have special characteristics. Well, there is one in Louisiana owned by Denbury that covers this whole area right here and ends up storing it up there in the Jackson Dome. Guess where it goes right by, okay? Having that pipeline there is really important because, again, you got to get permits for the pipeline part. And the present administration in Washington, D.C. does not like pipelines, doesn't like fossil fuels, really wants to tell you what the hell you should be doing. Because y'all are deplorables. You don't know what's right for you. Let us tell you what's right for you, okay? And so, I'm sorry, George. Where's George? I'm sorry I said that. George should have said that out loud. But anyway, now you also have a very big project here, Project Cypress, which is a carbon capture hub, single largest award from the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. Now this one, instead of capturing carbon from a plant and then putting it in the ground, they're just going to capture carbon from the air and put it in the ground. Okay. What do plants eat? I'm just wondering about this. If everybody does this, they're moving CO2 in the air. What do plants eat? I don't understand how this is going to work out. Anyway, 5 years to construct. I shouldn't be happy about this. Now, one of the reasons we know you're going to do well is because Dan Logan's group, the South Louisiana has done surveys of how many construction workers are going to be needed. And look at this area right here between now and April of next year. We're talking about at least 800 jobs there. And what's really important for you is that little area right there. These are the large capital projects. This is where those LNG people start pulling the trigger. That sucker is going to get wide. It's going to get real wide. And that's the the whole thing behind our very positive forecast for you folks is this. We think the construction side is really going to be driving you going forward. If you look at the Jim Rock's LAIA, remember these are permanent employment of things that have already been built. You'll see you've already picked up, what is this, 140 jobs here. They're expecting 150 going forward. So permanent jobs in plants going forward. That's really good. And by the way, again, when you think about this number growing, you can almost double that number because the contractor is going to be growing too. Most of these plants, about half of their workforce is not people wearing a Sasol shirt. It's people wearing a Sasol shirt and another group of people wearing performance contractors, Turner Industries, ISC, etc. The contractors out there. Looks like y'all need some more dietary wisdom real quick for you here. I don't need to brag, but I finished my 14-day diet food supply in just 3 hours and 20 minutes. I think I'm encouraged to be applauded for that. We all get heavy as we get older because there's a lot more information in our heads, right? That's my position, and I'm sticking with it. Anyway, that's what. Now, let's talk about Kevin's outfit out there, Chenault International Airport. They are back in growth mode. When I was with you last year, they just, Northrop Grumman had terminated about 125 people because of a contract that went away. The good news is that is coming back. They're going to get they're expecting another 125 jobs going forward. They won a 5-year contract on the Navy's E-6B aircraft. I believe that's the one, Michael, where is Michael? Michael, that's the one that's they have 2 of them in the air 24 hours a day, right? And so they got the contract for that. They have a 10-year maintenance, repair and overhaul on the Navy's P-3 aircraft, and they're finalizing a contract to do the cockpit and communications work on 300 KC-135s. That's where the 125 jobs would come from. Citadel is doing very well. They take aircraft and make them into really fancy aircrafts for really fancy, very high income people. They're going to be adding people. Landlock, the airplane painting business is really going crazy right now. Landlock is one of those. They're at 112 now. They expect to be at 300 by 2025. So you see, gone from a position, losing a few jobs last year to now having quite a few new jobs. And also they're in the process of the initial stages now of developing the Mallard golf course out there. Looking at, I think Kevin and them are looking at the money for putting in utilities and that sort of thing so they can then sell it to people who want to come to that area. The gaming market, you have the #1 gaming market in the state of Louisiana. You have the new on-land Horseshoe. It's going to be interesting to see where the Golden Nugget or LaBerge decide to move their stuff on land. That'd be kind of interesting. You know, there was a rule passed back in, I think it was 2018, 2019, some of that area where you could move onshore, move your riverboat onshore, as long as you build a hotel and convention. Well, they already have the hotel and convention stuff. All they can do is move the thing on land and increase the space, and given the closeness of the Houston market, that's going to be great for them. Delta Downs, you have the most successful horse race track in the state of Louisiana too. You're 2 times more money bet there than at the #2 racetrack. And look at that. This is one of the things that happened as a result of Horseshoe coming on land. You know, you have a lot more activity at the port. A couple of things going on here. #1, about the amount of money spent on the ship channel work is going to go up about $13 million. And then the largest capital project in their history is about to take place. $135 million to restore and update these the berths and the transit sheds on 4, 5, and 6 out there. The Coastal Protection Restoration Authority, who has gotten a great deal of money from the BP oil spill. One of the places they're using it here, $142 million over 24-25 on 2 projects, the Southwest Coastal Louisiana project, and then, I love this, the No Name Bayou Marsh Creation Project. So you got some extra money coming in there that otherwise would not be here. Then, of course, the big thing is that you folks, all the metropolitan, you have more money allocated to you from the state job levies than any other metropolitan area in the state. $1.8 billion. And of course, the main thing with it is this sucker down here. $1.5 billion set aside for the new bridge over the Calcasieu River. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on with that. A lot of important things going to happen between now and the end of the year. as I talked with George about this. A lot of important things happening here involving, how this is going to work out, where the money's going to come from, and that sort of thing. The total cost of the bridge is about $2.1 billion, and I don't have to tell the people in this room where the extra money's going to come from. Between the 1.5 and 2.1, it'll come from y'all, right? It's going to come from tolls. We'll see how that works out. I have a new governor coming in January, and so we'll see what happens with this thing. Yeah, way the heck further along than Baton Rouge is, I guarantee you that. At least you know where your dadgum bridge is going to go. We don't even know that in Baton Rouge. Now, oh, by the way, speaking of roads, there's a recent travel announcement. I don't know if y'all are aware of this. It was kind of bad news. A truckload of mixed maple rub overturned on the interstate yesterday. The good news is there was no congestion for at least 8 hours, which I think was really good. So, what is our forecast for this area here? We are forecasting over the next 2 years that you'll pick up a little over 7,000 jobs, 7,200 jobs over the next 2 years. And look at these growth rates. I mean, this is kind of unheard of stuff. This is what happens when you get LNG export terminals of the multi-billion-dollar ones coming on. This will be the fastest percentage growth rate in the state. By the way, if you think this is just crazy, this can't possibly be so. Have you seen the latest numbers on your area? I know that Dan has, but if you look at normally when employment is growing 1.5%, that's considered that's good growth rate in employment. The August numbers show the state is growing 1.8. Baton Rouge is growing at 2.7. Lake Charles is growing 2.4. You're growing a lot faster than even right now, but forget any new LNG export terminal. You're growing very fast right now. And if you look behind the numbers is the construction sector. That's what's mainly driving this really good growth you're having now. Compare that to New Orleans, 1.7%. New Orleans has still got to struggle with they have the 6th largest convention facility in the United States, and their convention number of conventions has gone from 155 down to about 100, and it has not come back. It is just they're really struggling with that. Well, let me finish by talking to you about this person here. Some of you may recognize. This is Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead, a very famous anthropologist. She had an interesting discussion one time that's been reported with her students, and she asked them, "What do you think the first sign of civilization is?" And of course, the kids said, "I don't know, fish hook, maybe pottery, maybe drawings on the wall." He said, "No. The first sign of civilization is if you find in that civilization a healed femur bone, you know the civilization is arrived." What are you talking about? I said, well, you think about this for a minute. If an animal breaks its leg, can't get to water, can't get to food, totally vulnerable to all of its enemies. Same thing is true of human beings. You break that femur bone, you're in deep trouble. The only way you're going to survive is if somebody helps you. If somebody helps you fix that femur bone, takes care of you, bring you water, bring you food, keep enemies away from you. The first sign of civilization is a healed femur bone. I've watched you guys for 40 years, okay? I've watched what's happened here. A lot of bad stuff happens here. But one of the things I notice about you folks is there's a lot of healed femur bones here. You take care of each other. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy coming back here every year. Thank you very much.